Hey, how are you? So, welcome to this Global Hack Week introduction to GraphQL. This is going to be our part one of the session. So, before I forget, let me share with you the check-in link for the session. Thanks a lot for joining, and I hope you are so excited as am I to start learning this GraphQL, right? So this is going to be a 3 sessions workshop. The first one, it's we're going to cover like the theory and the basics and like basic querying. So don't you worry, this is not going to be full slide. We're going to go and make some queries, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. And then in session two, we're going to create ourselves our backend, and we are going to prepare the service for fetching and retrieving data. And in part three, we are going to make a consuming service for that. Complete projects. So that will be another interesting thing for you to follow and try to replicate. Right? Semi to Hall says hello. I remember your image and your name. Sorry, like the namer tag, but I didn't remember your name. I'm so sorry, man. I think it was like. mm, no, I don't want to lie. I completely don't want to lie. Say sup. So let's get started, right? Let me start sharing my screen, and we can start with this. And also, I have a repo. Uh, that before I forgot. Also, let me share the repo. In this repo, we are going to push all the code we generate during these sessions. Plus, you have the slides available for you. That's at the moment. So I like. I'm starting to like to work with MARP, which is just an incredible tool I found to generate slides with Markdown. So there's repo, and now let me move this here, and well, I'll open the slides. Amazing. So now we're ready to start sharing. Great. And here we are. I just love how Firefox fixed this image here. Uh, Firefox, sorry. And well, let's continue with this session. Introduction to GraphQL. I'm Alberto Camarena. I would like to. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I'm so sorry. I'm so rude. I didn't introduce myself this time. I'm so used to you already knowing me. But hey, I'm Alberto Camarena. I'm your mainly hooking coach from Mexico. What else about me? I'm a photography enthusiast. I'm also a plant lover, and I'm very very passionate about coffee. So if you want to talk about any of those, feel free to reach out to me in Discord, or yeah, I don't use any other social media currently, so at least there's the Discord for us to communicate, right? Um, the workshop review is that we're going to have the 3 sessions I was mentioning. This one we are going to cover the fundamentals and querying, and In the second, we're going to build the backend, and in the third, the frontend. Right, same as how I was meant to have the the sorry, the rest workshops. So during this AP week, I ran two parallel workshops, one for Graph and another one for REST. So if you missed the REST, don't you worry. You can head to ghw.nlh.io and you can watch the recordings for that. I wanted it to be three sessions, but I couldn't find any other space, so I resumed it in just two sessions. Hey, but we managed to complete a very decent project, and it was really, really interesting. And I also gave a session about to build a Pokédex. I think that was funny. So again, if you missed any of my streams or any of the other coaches' streams, you can watch the recordings there. Objectives: understanding what GraphQL is and how it compares to REST. That's why the REST one was first. Learn the core concepts of GraphQL and build a GraphQL server and develop a frontend that queries that GraphQL API. In this, let's start. Let's ask ourselves what GraphQL is. Well, it's a query language for the APIs and a runtime for fulfilling those queries with your existing data. So there's a great documentary. I really encourage you to take a look at. It's in the YouTube channel of Honeypot. I mean, like I can't directly go here. Well, no. Let's return here and just let me look for it in another section. YouTube, and inside the YouTube there is the Honeypot GraphQL. Yeah. So share. This is the link. Um, this documentary tells you more about like the history, the intentions behind this, and you just fell in love with the state of the art, we will say, uh, of how GraphQL was built. It was developed by Facebook in 2012 and open sourced in 2015. It's single API, single endpoint area API. Sorry, it's schema based and strongly type, and reduce the overfetching and underfetching problem that we know that REST have. So let's break down what's inside these slides. A query language. That's the first thing we need to have in mind. So it's different from example the REST protocol that's on top of the layer of the HTTP, which is same like a layer of TCP/IP communication protocol, but just specifically for well, not specifically. There are more use cases, but it's the web standard, right? Um, well, GraphQL was born to solve the problems that REST used to have. There are many others. We can talk about, for example, WebSockets, gRCP, MQTT. Um, what are well? I mentioned ours, but GraphQL it's just great because the main idea was to substitute what REST is right now, which is the standard of the industry, right? And many APIs, like I don't want to say numbers, but a lot of them uses REST. And currently, GraphQL it's being adopted. You see, it's 10 years since they open sourced it, and still it's not yet standard. That's why I consider, oh my god, I am taking a look to the slides that this has intro to RESTful APIs part one. Oh, that's my bad. I will correct them. But yeah, that's why I wanted to give the intro to RESTful APIs sessions. And so that's the present. We're looking forward to the future. This query language for the APIs, it's like thinking, for example, about databases. In databases, you have SQL, which it's a language, um, and you have NoSQL, right? And NoSQLs have different standards. They manage themselves differently, with, like one to another. But if you learn SQL, you probably be able to transition from one to another to another to many databases. They have slight changes, but this the language is there. Well, this query language is intentional for the APIs, right? So we have like a big standard there that I just think it's amazing. Um, and you may be wondering also what's the overfetching and underfetching problem. Well, it happened to many of us that we create the service, or there is a backend team that created the service, and we want to have information, for example, about the car. So the full car object that lives in the database, it contains, let's say, information about the model, about the color of the car, the plates, the, I don't know, the owner's driver license, let's say, for a reason, number of seats, number of windows, number of doors, a lot of information, right? The vehicle number, the model number, the serial number, etc., etc. And some of them are useful for us, and some of them are useful for the front end, because let's think we are creating a page to sell these cars, and we want to show this data to the users. So we show all the information that the UI team think, or the UX, sorry, well, both, uh, thought that will be the most appropriate to make the decision of buying that car, right? So let's think that the backend was meant for that specific reason, and they service an endpoint that just have that specific information that the UI team, well, the designing team, told us that it's going to be shown, and that's five. No, I don't know, like number of seats, color of the car, the, I don't know, the kilometers, miles it has moved. What else? The size of the wheels, things like that, you know. And then requires change. Their requirements changes, and they ask for another thing, that they realize that in the fax or the client support, a lot of clients are asking for, hey, I see that there is no information about the type of fuel that this car requires. I don't know if it's hybrid, electric, gasoline, I don't know, right? So we want to make this change, but since the backend it's not sending us that information, we need to change how the backend is structured. We need to change how the endpoints work, and we have to coordinate this information for the whole project to work as it should. So that's underfetching. We're receiving less data than the one we want, because yeah, that was in the database. That's existing. We have that information. You simply are not receiving that. Another case would be the opposite. Imagine they are not just sending us these fuel, or the type of fuel the car uses. They're sending us everything that exists in the database. Once, that's a security risk. The other one is that we are losing. I mean, I know there are like smile bites of memory, but we are losing a lot of information there that we just simply did not use. So that's overfetching. They're sending a lot of things that we don't want. And how GraphQL solves this? Well, it's because it's just what we want. That we receive what we ask for, and that's it. And that's it. So the comparison between the REST, previously known as and GraphQL, it's that, for example, in the endpoints we used to have multiple endpoints, and in GraphQL we didn't have those. We just have one. Just have one endpoint, one URL. We need to make um, queries. We need to make mutations and subscriptions. We are going to cover what are those. For the fetching, sorry, we used to have a fixed structure. We need to coordinate exactly what we wanted to, back end and front end, and so to be able to have the service working. In GraphQL, we have flexible queries that, if we prepare correctly the backend, because yeah, that's a thing, we need to do things right, of course, but we can have flexibility. So we avoid the underfetching and overfetching for this reason of the flexibility of the queries, and also the evolving of the API. For previous REST, we used to have one thing that's called versioning. So if we want to migrate, we probably need to keep previous version because we don't want to break past services, and in the future we are going to say like, okay, this is not no longer version 1, it's now version 2, and then 3, and then 5, and when we reach version 5, we stop giving support to version 1. I don't know, that's a lot of decisions. But in GraphQL, we have a schema evolution, and we can tackle this problem with many clever solutions, right? About the introspection, Rust, you didn't have support for that, and in GraphQL, it's built in, right? So the core concepts that we need to cover at the moment, it's schemas, schemas, operation types. These operation types, I want you to have a difference between the types in the schemas and these operation types. Query, mutation, and subscriptions. These ones last are optional, but this is the base for what we're trying to achieve here in GraphQL. Resolvers, that are functions that fetch data for the field, right? Uh, let's take a deeper look. Schemas and types. Schema, it's like a contract. It defines what's available for the data and the operations for the clients, and it serves a single source of truth between these two. This is an example. The basic schema, it's for the query, that it's going to be me, and it has a type user. Then we define the type user, and it's the name that just contains a string. Little by little, I swear this is going to make sense, right? And it's indispensable to introduce concepts that we have not seen yet. For example, this query one, but you will see how these ones connect to others. So the schemas for this, it's we are going to make a query that has the me user that we can fetch, and that user just have a name, right? For example. Now, about the types I mentioned you before, that don't confuse with the query, mutation, and subscription. We can have the fundamental types that are scalar, like like in every language, string, integer, float, boolean, and in this case, since we are having query, this is a query language, we have one that's ID. Another acceleration I like to make, it's like GraphQL. It's support by many languages. So we can do JavaScript, we can do uh, many others. But what I want to say is that we can set specific types, Scholar types, on these ones, right? Um, and we can get flexible and definition of our schemas and everything, uh, depending on the language we want to use. So that's why I'm leaving a lot of useful links here. Remember, you have access to these slides in the repo I shared. Um, and then we can continue. The object types. So these ones are the custom types that define objects with the fields. So like this previous one, the type query, indeed it's an object type that has the me, and me it's of type object also. That object also has a name that's type of string. So the type of name, it's this color, and user, it's fundamental, right? Hope makes sense. Also, I want to tell you, if you have any question at any moment, just leave that on the comments, and I'll be happy to try to answer. The advanced types we can check later that are like enums. We can make interfaces, unions, or combinations of many others, and input types and so on. But for the moment, just take this color and object ones. That's simple as that. Then we can start talking about the operation types, starting with the query. The purpose of the query is to read and fetch the data from the server, and how it works is that we define in the schema query type, and we mention what we want to retrieve from the existing schema, right? So the analogy in REST, if you're already used to that, it's like making a get. And you may be wondering, okay, that's great, but in REST we just not do get. We modify the data. We just not read the data. We want to change how data is structured, maybe create new ones, modify existing data, or even delete it. Right? How about that? Well, um, before we get that, we have an example of a query. We are going to get back to this slide in a couple of seconds. Uh, well, not in a couple of seconds. I would like to finish the whole explanation and then getting back here to the query. But you will see the query is defined, and we can find this as get country because we are going to get a country. We are passing a parameter, so this can be like a function. This can be working for many other country codes, and we want to retrieve the name, the capital, the emoji, the currency, the language, and from the languages, I want the name of that language. We are going to check this live example in a couple of seconds, right? But this is the answer I want to keep first. For the other methods like post, put, patch, delete, blah 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 in REST, we have the mutations. The purpose is to create, update, or delete data. In the CRUD, we had the read, but we were missing the create, the update, and delete, right? So here they are. How it works is that we define a schema mutation, and each mutation field is tried to resolve. it's tied, sorry, to a resolver that performs the corresponding write or data changing action or deletion, right? And finally, sorry, there are like the subscriptions. This one I mentioned again, it's optional, but the purpose is to provide real-time updates. Um, Again, the analogy, it's like a socket connection. So we used to have that, right? And I mentioned that we had REST and we have um, the WebSockets, and we have even one very specific that was Socket.io. Well, all of them solved with GraphQL. That's why GraphQL it's just so amazing. Understanding the resolvers. That's the last part of the fundamentals of the core of GraphQL. Resolvers are these functions that, for example, are tied to the mutations, but this is the functions that actually make the changes and make everything work for your for your backend, right? So the way this works are that each field in the GraphQL query is connected to a resolver, and this resolver receives, for example, the arguments. So it has the parent, the result form of the parent field, the argument, the input argument providing the query, a context, and some information. So if we return here, you will see this now makes a little bit more sense, right? We have the arguments. An example of this resolver is the const resolvers of a query can be the posts. As the posts, we receive the parent, the args, the context, and the info. The args contain the parameters such as the ID. So if we're making a post that we want to retrieve a specific, sorry, a query that we want to retrieve a specific post, we need to pass the ID as an argument. In this case of the countries, we need to pass, we declare the query, but we need to change or we receive as parameter the code for that. Actually, not only the code, but we can pass many others. But we will explore this in a second. So um, that's just an example of the resolver in action. Bring it all together. So let's summarize this, and then we can start making more code. But it was important to have these in mind, right? Integration of the components we mentioned. Let's recall them. There are the schemas and the types, the resolvers, and the operation types. The schemas and the types define what the data structure and the operations are available, right? So they define what. If you have to answer that, that's what it is, the schema and the types. And the resolvers define the how. Okay, that's great. You want that, but how? So there are the functions that fetch or modify the data for each schema field, right? Um, the types define what, the data structure and operations available through the query, mutation, and subscriptions, of course. These operation types are the query, these are read only, and remember the CRUD that have that always in mind. Create query, sorry, read query, create, update, and delete the mutation. And if you want a real time connection like sockets, you have the subscriptions. Workflow overview. It's we design the schema, we outline the types, we create the queries, mutations, and optionally, if we want, the subscriptions. Then, once we create that schemas, that they outline the types, the queries, the mutation, the subscriptions, we implement the resolvers. So we write the functions to do what we planned it to do, right? This is the how we're planning to do this. Then we use GraphQL playgrounds to run queries and adjust with our implementations. There's one specific I want to have you in mind, to give you to have in mind. That's GraphQL. That's great. I think there are more like Apollo Playground or something like that. We are going to cover some of these. So the best practices are to keep resolvers focused and simple, modularize your schemas to better maintainability, and leverage the context for sharing data operations. So we have a best practice link as well. And before we end with this, let's return to the to this one, to the countries API. Actually, I have that opened here. Yeah, perfect. Let me make this bigger. I think you can see this better now, right? So this is the same get country query that we defined. Oh well, an explanation here. The backend, it's already created. There's the schema there, and so on and so on, right? One thing that it's constantly remarked for GraphQL, it's that it has a slightly bigger learning curve than REST. And that's true. I have to admit it, because in this case, we need the front end and the back end to have knowledge of the query language. So in this case, we as front ends, like we're consuming just the existing one, we need to have the basic of the query language. So in this case, we're not defining the schema. Um, well, yeah, kind of, but we're defining the query we want, right? So we're defining a query, get country, with passing the country code a parameter called MX. In this case, it can be US. I don't know, CA, co, more and more and more. Actually, let's start running this. The data we receive, it's the country, the name, Mexico, the capital, we want that, Mexico City, the emoji, this beautiful flag, the currency, languages, and the name of that Spanish. So, great. Let's test another one. Let's test CA, for example. So, we have the country, that's Canada, the capital, it's Ottawa, we have an emoji, we have the currency, and they have two languages, two official languages, English and French. What else? Um, right? I think that's for Colombia. Yeah. So the country, they have capital Bogota, emoji, currency cup, and they same speak Spanish. What order? I think this is for Japan. Yeah, perfect. Japan, Tokyo, emoji, currency, and then with Japanese. That's it. Let's start modifying and playing these around for you to see how it relates to what we were talking. Overfetching and underfetching. That's the first thing I want you to really be conscious of what it is. I don't want anymore the um name. It doesn't make sense, right? I just don't want it. And I call this again, and I don't receive the name. I don't want anymore the language. Now the emoji. Uh, so I don't receive it. So I'm not being overfetched or underfetched. But let's say I want any other. Let's say I want language. What was code? Yeah, code. So I received the code for this. If I go to S, in Spain, they speak a lot of languages. I think right now, Catalan, Galician, Auxian, Basque, and Spanish, right? And the codes for all of them I have them right here. But you know what? The full name doesn't. I don't want it anymore. I just want the code, and I get it, right? So that's the concept of overfetching and underfetching. Great. I received just what I asked for. Simple as that. What else? Oh, what else? Let's go ahead and take a look to what we were mentioning: overfetching, underfetching, just one endpoint. Here it's the same. I haven't changed anything. Actually, you can take a look to this if you just write countries.trevorblades.com. The pages of Trevor Blades are interesting. Actually, here's the repo. This author, it's really remarkable, I have to admit. It has some great contributions to open source. It has worked in many interesting projects. So you can take a look to his complete repo, and probably while he works in Apollo, there was a page I wanted to show. Maybe here, just troublebutdesk.com. Yeah, here. These open source projects are great, but also in the lab and favorite things, right? Apple Odyssey, it's a learning platform. I really encourage you to take a look at this after the session. So they have amazing content for you to learn more about GraphQL and also Apollo. Um, but yeah, what else? Oh yeah, I wanted to return to the slides. Program mutation. Okay, let's start doing. Maybe we need to take a look to the docs. Root types. We just have queries, and we can inspect the schemas, right? So we have continent, continent filter input, the country filter input, float ID, languages, and stuff. Um, so let's take a look to the continents. Let's copy. Well, no, the sorry, we were checking the country, right? Here. So in the country, we can pass the states. So let's return to MX, and I'm going to delete all of this, and I just want states. And states says field states of type steps must have a selection of subfield. Okay, states subfield. Oh yeah, because this is of type state. Uh, of course, remember taking attention to the string. AWS region, capital, this string, the code, it's type ID, the continent, it's type continent, currencies, a string, and etc. So state, we need to take a look to state, and let's say I want the code, I want the, no, I don't want the country since I already getting this, uh, and the name. So let's fetch that, and I have all Mexico states. Aguascalientes, Baja California Sur, Campeche, Chiapas. Let's take a look to mm, I don't know. Um, what's the one for Argentina? It's AR. Yes. There are no code for Argentina, so let's remove this since there's no information. Chaco, Chubutu, Córdoba, Corrientes, Jujuy, La Pampa, La Rioja, Mendoza, Tucumán, Buenos Aires. Perfect. So interesting, right? How we can interface the existing data, and there's just one endpoint. We're just changing our query. Um, let's try one then. Get continent, and for these, let me remember. Okay, um, I'm going to say this here. Get continent. I'm going to fetch the continent. Continents. Oh, continents must have a selection of fields. Continents and continents should be of type. Uh, I just want the name and that's it, right? So we have the Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Europe, North America, Oceania. I don't know how to say that in English, and South America. And now let's give a list of the countries and just the name of them. So all in Africa are Angola, Benin, Botswana, Republic of Congo, Cameroon, Cape Verde. So that's right, right? Um, also, we can query get continent because this is continents. I don't know. I don't want anymore the countries. And well, no, maybe not a continent. What else? Language. All languages in the world. And this is going to be languages. Actually, I'm languages, language, languages, and I want the name of them, just like that. And I want to run the good languages. So here, you probably take a look at that. I define two queries, and when I want to run them, it asks me which one of these you want to run, the get continents or the get languages. So we can define many queries here. At the moment, these just support the root type of query. Uh, we can make queries for continents with code ID, complete continents, countries applying filters for full lists of the languages, etc. and etc. But we cannot make mutations here because it's it's complicated to explain if you didn't see the rest workshop, but I'll do my best. Imagine having to manage all the transactions of a public API because I didn't um, do any login or anything for these. I just directly open the page. Same as you can directly go to countries.trevorvaldez.com and you will see these. You can access all the data. You can make request and as many as you want. Hey, don't be rude. Uh, and well, having the ability to actually perform changes in the database for all of these, I think that that can be risky, hard to maintain, and stuff. So public APIs normally just have access to retrieve data, right? Right. Um, there are others that can mock a methods or for creating, updating, or deleting. The JSON placeholder API, for example, has that. There are many others, sorry, that simply don't. And for example, these it doesn't, right? So that's great. So the intention for this session is for you to have that in mind, like you already see the concepts. And let's take a look now to the how this works. Countries, and let's see the code. And again, a great thing of having open source that you can inspect in the in a very deep level how your favorite tools work. So the first thing we have to mention is that it has a great README. Let's start with that. A public GraphQL API for information about countries, continents, and languages. This project uses countries list and provinces as data source, so they are public with the where do they get the data, right? So the schema follows the shape of the data with a few exceptions. The codes used to key the objects in the original data are available as code property on each item returned from the API. The country.continent and country.languages are now objects and arrays of objects respectively. The country dot well, they mentioned the differences. We can skip this. Writing queries. This is the base example of how we started. And the above GraphQL query will produce the following response. They ask for the name. Of course, we get name. We ask for the native. I think this is the native name. I'm not sure. Capital, Brasilia, emoji, currency, languages, and that's it. There are some filters. The countries, continents, and languages top level queries accepts optional filter algorithm and causes the result to filter or one of more subfields. Uh, let's try one example of this. For example, these countries that uses USDCs, list countries in NAFTA, list countries that begin with the letter A. This regex. Let's try one of that. I want query get countries that speak Spanish. Countries. We have apply a filter, and yeah, the filter it's language. Oh no, name code currency. So name code currency. It's a shame I cannot filter over that. Um, code currency or continent. Hmm. So the query I'm looking for won't be able to, but let's do another thing. Get countries, uh, code, currency or continent. Code, currency or continent. Wow, but we can apply code coverage of content language. No, yeah. Um, yeah, that will be then get countries of one interesting query. Any suggestion on the comments? Haven't seen you so active lately. Um, let's see. Get countries of Global Hack Week attendees. Well, Global Hack Week hackers. So present, we have yeah, I see what I was missing. I'm from Mexico. Um, what about you? Where are you from? Let me know. Come on, I know. Drop your counter code in the comments. I'll give you some minutes for that. I can relax a little. Also, we can continue with this, and then we return to uh, doing your country codes. Some examples using React, React Native, Reason, blah blah blah, Python, C. Let's take a look to the React one and the Python. Examples, React, Python. And there's one even for Angular. There's that not listed here, but let's open that, of course. Angular example. This example uses Angular with the Apollo Angular library. Apollo Angular library is designed from the ground to make it easy to build UI components that fetch data with GraphQL. The GraphQL model was added here. The URL, the endpoint URI or URL, uh, it's here. It's for the function create Apollo, HTTP link, return the link and the cache. And then your model exports Apollo model. And the country service just says, let's create a country service that all application classes can use to get the countries. We will use the dependencies injection that Angular supports, Apollo, GQL, observable map, the country from that country slash country, constructor, a function called get country to receive an observable and country object type and to return these that Apollo to watch the query and we query the countries component, displayed columns. Well, this is a big example, but it's just an for the view we're using algorithm materials. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is just an example of how they consumes it. That's for the front end. A Python usage API, a JSON query that requires this post, print, amazing. React example, that will be the same, just doing as the Angular one, Mr. Worldwide. Great quote here. So we can close the examples and then we can go directly to the code. Let's take a look to the source. We have the schema. In the schema, let's start reading this. We make an import of locals. Locals says languages with estimate usage on internet. Locales, it's English, Russian, I think, Spanish, French. I don't know what this is. Japanese. I don't know what is any of the rest. Um, import from countries, blanks, and JSON. Okay, I'm thinking this is for making translations. And what's here? GraphQL yoga, create yoga, schema, const yoga, schema, mushroom, yoga fetch, build HTTP executor. Mm, So schema builder for Protoscore, validation plugin, provinces, SIFT, I don't know what this is, GraphQL errors from GraphQL, continent, countries, and languages from the countries list. Huh? Import country to AWS region from country to AWS region. Import country as get country. Get name as the lang. Country language from the countries list. The builder says new schema builder. The schema builder comes from Protoscore. The plugin, it's the validation plugin. Set error, no, and info. Uh-huh. Message path, return GraphQL error, validation error. Class continent, constructor, public code, builder, object type of the continent. So this is how we build our schema. We set the name, continent, and the fields that should be passing are the codes, name, the countries, subdivision raft, builder of the subdivision raft, the country references, language references, the states references, the builder references, and that's it. And finally, let's look for the query. Yeah, these are the queries. We build a query type to have as many. For example, we can query for the continents, the continent, the countries, the country, the languages, and the language. So these are the queries available. These it's the schema of the query type. And I want you to take a look of how we have the resolver. So for example, when we fetch for a specific country, um, let me make this less big. For example, get languages. Let's say let get language, and I need to pass the code, and the code for that it's Spanish, right? So for this to work, they make this definition of the query. So the query we're looking for right now it's the language one. So this language, oh my god, I don't know what happened, but this language received as the field the argument of the code. So it is required. It's well defined as that. And what it does, it's that the resolver calls the function first. It's a valid language code. Okay, it's a valid language code. Yes. So look for the languages list, the code you passed, right? And it reserve also the code. So languages, it's defined in here. It's valid language code, receives the code. Code is key of languages. This is the validation. Then we return the code that we passed. So in the languages like this, of the countries list, we look for that specific Spanish, right? So it's a simple one. I mean, it does not perform any complicated resolver because these lists are reduced. So either we're making no query to the database or so because just have plain text list. So simple as as that. Also, I mentioned these only have schemas for the the declaration of the schemas and the queries, right? Both of them. So the the ones, for example, for the countries, a country object with the country reference one should have the fields of code, name, native, phone, capital, currency, currencies, emoji, emoji U, the continent it belongs to, the languages, the states, the AWS region, and the subdivisions, right? All this declaration, it's what makes possible it for being here in the country, all of them, all of this huge list, right? So you can see this is not a complicated code to understand, even though this is a great and very educative use project that has a lot of amazing things like you will see the workflows that for GitHub Actions, some automatizations here, many contributors. The whole thing it's living in 4 files, right? So even you can contribute to this if you put enough attention to what's happening here. Um, and in the examples, we already run this on GraphQL, and GraphQL, I have this repo here. It's the way GraphQL wants you to do these kind of things, right? I think I didn't introduce you to the GraphQL main page, to the landing page, so I'm so sorry for that. This is the main page. In reduced terms, you describe your data with the schemas, you ask for what you want with the queries or the limitations or the subscriptions, and you get the results, predictable results, of course. So the type project has three things: a name, a tagline, and contributors. That the contributors, it's an array of users. We should see in the whole file how the type of the users is defined. But here, the project, we just have to pass the name, GraphQL, and the tagline. And the project says query language for APIs. Perfect. Um, Here, it's what we just covered. We can pass many names, hate, mask, delete, query again, and that we work. Uh, More complicated stuff. For example, here we can pass many of these. This schema it's defined differently. We can have the query that looks for the hero over the character. The character is of these types. It has a name. It has friends. It has a homeworld and species. For but these are for many others, right? Schemas. So a great good practice here. And this is the one I wanted to reach. Know exactly what data you can request from your API without leveraging your editor. Highlight potential issues before sending a query and take advantage of improved code intelligence. GraphQLs make it easy to build powerful tools like GraphQL by leveraging your API's type system. This GraphQL sounds really similar to what we just see, right? Well, this is GraphQL. If we open the repo, this is the one. Uh, I I have to admit I don't love the README. I think it's kind of confusing. GraphQL ID monorepo, um, all versions of blah blah blah. Look for the GraphQL docs. This is the root of the monorepo. The full GraphQL docs are located at packages GraphQL. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, I don't know. I am not that a big fan of monorepos. Um, well, it depends. It depends. It depends. Um, but overview, GraphQL, it's the reference implementation of this monorepo. GraphQL IDE, an official project under the GraphQL Foundation that uses the permissive MIT license, right? There are other ones like Cosmiro GraphQL, Monaco GraphQL provides a Monaco editor with a powerful schema-driven GraphQL language that uses I don't know what. There are many. Just put attention right now to the GraphQL, right, which is this one here. Uh, a graphical, a graphical interactive in browser GraphQL IDE. Try it live demo. Great, isn't it? Um, Some features are the language support of the latest GraphQL specification, syntax highlight. It has also intelligent type of header fields, area time error highlighting, automatic querying, automatic lift node insertion, um, persistent state, unlocked storage, and simple API for adding custom plugins, right? Some live demos are available here and examples and stuff. We're going to use this tomorrow for creating the backend, but for the moment, we we're not going to create anything with this, but we are going to experiment a little bit more. At the moment, we have already touched the GraphQL interactive tool for countries that Trevor had for us deployed, which is great. But we are going to make also use of one of his examples to make the same, but in code in our IDs. And finally, we are going to explore one more GraphQL one, which is one I really love. That's the Star Wars API, but the version for GraphQL. So before we head here, let's return to the Angular example. Let's start with this in the introduction. So let me cd to introduction. Oh yeah, I was going to change the slides, of course, because it had these intro to rest, no, intro to GraphQL part one. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Oh, I need to sneeze. Give me a second. My position. Okay, uh, I'm back. Sorry. Hmm. I already changed that. So here we're going to say px g at Apollo Angular. Oh, what I'm wondering why is that. Um, well, I have to say start a simple Angular project here. And let me make this bigger for you. I'm sorry. Okay, that probably it's better. Isn't there any Angular command for that? Is there any Angular command to start a project? Okay, let's create this. Okay, while it creates all of this, let's take a look again to the Angular example, to what we need to do. We need to do the ng add Apollo Angular and the GraphQL model, right? So let's do that. this folder. Goodbye. Okay, slides I close. Source readme. Hello world Angular application. This is going to be hello world GraphQL Angular application. This is the basic Angular application that displays. This is a basic Angular application that connects to GraphQL API. Project structure. The project is run as follows. Plain text. Introduction. Source app. And we need another module. That's the app module. MPX version. Introduction. MP init. Okay. Able to resolve dependency tree while resolving hello world Angular. Found Angular core defined. Oh, okay, yeah, because of course. Let's start with Angular dev. What was that? The home of Angular. Wow, that was the homepage for Angular. That's horrible. Uh, um, before you start setting up the log environment, yeah, I probably installed this slowly once for all. Okay. Now I'm going to delete all of this. I think it does not make sense. What was that? GraphQL Angular. Okay, I think with the schematic. What? Okay. Enable to resolve dependency tree. The package JSON says graph QL Angular version 0.1 scripts version 19. README GraphQL Angular. This project was generated using Angular CLI, blah blah blah, bash. Common forms, Angular forms. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Angular common at undefined from the root project will not resolve dependency. Angular command from Angular. Okay, that's fixed. That's weird. MPME legacy peer depths. Okay, let's do that quick. Come on, you can do it. Okay, now packages are installed, but there is a problem here. Cannot find the definition file for Jasmine. There's no Jasmine at all. I don't know what you're talking about, but hey, it's fine. And you search. Let's see what you have for us. Hello. Okay, that's fine. Um, okay, perfect. Then I need to add another model. The previous command will generate GraphQL. The previous model will generate GraphQL with model file from you, which contains the following configuration. Would you like to proceed? Yes, of course. Enable to install package exist npm install engineer. Okay, then let's do that again. The URL for my GraphQL, it's this. Version of GraphQL. Oh, great question. Um, which version this is? Does it says? I think it doesn't. I'm going to do that. We couldn't find yes next in the list. Blah blah. Is required. Okay. What? There's the package JSON. This is related to npm able to able find. Okay. Upload client core. Blur. npm in This is the simplest way. Don't you can create your first query. Let's go through it together. Okay, it says this should create it. A model that's app model. But I don't see any of it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing any of this. Hmm. Okay, I get it. I get it. I get it. It's tsconfig. Okay, I'll ask Copilot to do that in the tsconfig. Tsconfig JSON. Library files to be included in the compilation. Compiler option. Let's update the JSON file with that. Mm-hmm. In the lib compiler options, there's no lib. Well, I'll add this. And the allowed synthetic one. Perfect. That's true. And now let's run that again, I'm guessing. And this is going to ask for me the API again, this one. But it's enabled now. Well, uh, source app config. You're meaning this? this one actualized. Yeah, but I can't make this work without this. Oh, package JSON was updated. Apollo client. I suppose that should be enough then. But the command will ask you, the previous command will generate the GraphQL model.ts file for you, and it didn't. That's already here in the leave. I don't know if it's a valid thing, but that will do. But hey, why can't I install? Okay, I'm going to delete that one. What? I have a weird thing about my configuration right now. I was playing with some things before the stream, and I think I messed up a little bit. Um, Let me delete all again. I don't want any of those. Mhm. Yeah, I was playing with some dangerous things, and I think I need now to do this again. Yeah. Um, 1 second. Yeah, I probably needed to do that before. Sorry. On install Node. Huh. What a time to play with Node installations, right? Uh, but I hope this doesn't take that much time. Hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's do then all that again. ng generate ng first version. Okay, 19. ng new GraphQL Angular. That was the says schematics workflow failed. No, I mean, I don't want this if it failed. Um, let's try to go back to previous version. Sudo npm install at Angular CLI. On install, sorry. I was meaning lovely. Now sudo npm install Angular CLI at 18. ng-b version. Oh, what? How I installed this specific version of this? Come on, quickly. We still have time. We just need to do this. Versions. Perfect. But if I had this uninstalled, how is that possible? Oh my god. Hmm. Hmm. There isn't. Oh yeah, there is Angular. Install Angular. Okay. Oof. What a problem. Still, I have Angular. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Whoa. Well, you know what? Don't worry. Um, we tried to do the Angular thing. Angular started to be complicated. I don't know why. Uh, but we managed to complete what we proposed ourselves at the end, sorry, at the start of the session. That was to check all the fundamentals, even to perform ourselves queries. In this case, we just do it with GraphQL, but um, the final point is that you have all knowledge for doing this yourselves. Um, I give you the countries for Travis. I give you also this Star Wars API for GraphQL specifically that you can find the deployment on the Amplify.app. And that will be it. I will see you tomorrow for creating ourselves our project for backend. And we'll be creating also a GraphQL. And finally, in the third day, we are going to connect it to our front end. So for that moment, I'll be having the uh, Angular working, right? So thank you so much for joining. I hope you don't have any question this far. And well, I think you don't. I didn't see any here on the comments. So I'll be adding myself back again. Give me a second. And I'm here. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow. And stay tuned for the next Global Hack Week session that is Asiman for a Scribble mini event. Also, we have Queen to a Tetris tournament. Also, I always forget this, but don't forget to leave us your great, great feedback. I found something that's the link I need to share. Give me a second. Um, yeah, it's mlh.link/ global hack with feedback. Great. That was a nice session. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining. Here's the feedback link. So stay tuned for what's coming up and see you in the next day for Global Hack Week. Bye.